Quranic Laws, Qawaneen. By G.A. Parwez. Translated by Dr. Abdul Wadud. Chapter 9. Treaty, Obligations. It is necessary to fulfill obligations. 5:1.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا أوفوا بالعقود.
O you who believe, fulfill obligations. The word includes personal contracts as well as treaties. 1734.
وأوفوا بالعهد إن العهد كان مسؤولا.
Fulfill, every, obligation, for every obligation will be inquired into. It means the breaking of an obligation is accountable. B. The fulfillment of obligations is the sign characteristic of believers. 23:8.
والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون.
Those who faithfully observe their trusts and their covenants. Also, 70:32, 375, 3177, 70:32. See, the Quran presents a comprehensive guidance when says, 61:2-3.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لم تقولون ما لا تفعلون كبر مقتا عند الله أن تقولوا ما لا تفعلون.
O you who believe, why do you say which you do not? Grievously odious it is in the sight of Allah that you say that which you do not do. A man's act must coincide with, he says. D. To fulfill your covenant with Allah is also a necessity. 1691, 6152.
وبعهد الله أوفوا.
And fulfill the covenant of Allah. Covenant with Allah also includes those responsibilities which man takes upon himself with his belief in Allah. In those who break their obligations with the Islamic State, it is said, 1325.
والذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويفسدون في الأرض أولئك لهم اللعنة ولهم سوء الدار.
Those who break the covenant with Allah after ratifying it and cut asunder the human relationship which Allah has commanded should be joined, and make mischief on earth, for them is the curse, theirs is the terrible abode. At yet another place it is called selling of obligations, 1695, also, 376, 241.
ولا تشتروا بعهد الله ثمنا قليلا.
Nor sell the covenant of Allah for a miserable price for the sake of worldly gains. In our opinion, it also includes the conspiracies against an Islamic State, which the intriguers bring about in league with the enemy. The biggest and the basic covenant between man and Allah which makes the man a believer is, that the sells his life and property to Allah. 9:111.
إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة.
It is a reality that Allah purchases of the believers their persons and their wealth, and gives them a heavenly life as return. Note that it is not a matter of belief alone, it is meant to be brought into practice. Its practical shape is that it is a contract between an Islamic State and the believers, in the name of Allah. This is not the place for its explanation. For contacts with other states, see under the leading state affairs. Chapter 10. The prohibited, forbidden, unlawful, and the permitted, lawful. 1. The prohibited articles of food are A. Carrion. B. Blood. C. Flesh of swine, and that which is dedicated to anyone other than Allah, 2173, and 6146, 53, 2173.
إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل به لغير الله فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم.
Lo, he has forbidden for you carrion, blood, the flesh of swine, and that which has been dedicated to any other name besides that of Allah. If at any time a situation arises in which no article of food is available and you are compelled to save your life, the prohibited articles of food are allowed to be taken, under the condition that you are really constrained to do so and do not intend to transgress the law or to satisfy your lust. Under such conditions of stress, the bad effects on your personality of eating prohibited articles of food shall be counteracted by your feelings of respect for the laws of Allah, and your personality shall continue to receive nourishment. Such conditions of helplessness cannot be decided by law, the man concerned can only decide for himself. However, for a believer taking such a decision it is not difficult. 2. The food of the people of the book is admissible, it appears in Surah Al-Ma'idah, 5th chapter of the Quran, 5:5.
اليوم أحل لكم الطيبات وطعام الذين أوتوا الكتاب حل لكم وطعامكم حل لهم.
Have you noticed to what extent the Quranic laws on the permitted and the prohibited have brought about a pleasant revolution in human life? Before this, a multitude of restrictions were imposed by the man-made codes of the so-called Sharia, the religious laws, which had strangulated human freedom. The Quranic laws, after laying down prohibition on certain articles of food, allowed all other agreeable articles for eating. The food of the people of the book is also made lawful to you, provided it does not contain anything that has been prohibited for you, and they also partake of your eatables. It is obvious that in accepting the eatables of the people of the book, the decisive factor will be that they do not contain anything which is forbidden by the Quran. From the latter part of the verse it ensues that its aim is to promote social intercourse. But those people of the book who are not desirous of creating social intercourse with the Muslims, such contacts with them cannot be allowed. 3. Killing an animal for hunting on land while in the sacred precincts, in the pilgrim's garb, is prohibited, but water game is permitted. 595-96.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقتلوا الصيد وأنتم حرم ومن قتله منكم متعمدا فجزاء مثل ما قتل من النعم يحكم به ذوى عدل منكم هديا بالغ الكعبة أو كفارة طعام مساكين أو عدل ذلك صياما ليذوق وبال أمره عفى الله عما سلف ومن عاد فينتقم الله منه والله عزيز ذو انتقام. أحل لكم صيد البحر وطعامه متاعا لكم وللسيارة وحرم عليكم صيد البر ما دمتم حرما واتقوا الله الذي إليه تحشرون.
O you who believe, kill not game while in the sacred precincts of Kaaba, in the pilgrim's garb. We have declared Kaaba a place of peace and tranquility. 396. As such exigency of our surety not only provides such atmosphere to men entering these precincts, but to animals also. If any person intentionally kills an animal within its bounds, the atonement for this act is an offering brought to the Kaaba, of a domestic animal, like the one he has killed, so that it may be used as food by the needy. 22-28. In order to decide as to which animal is equivalent to the one killed, it shall be adjudged by two just men of relevant knowledge among you, or its atonement is feeding the poor, the extent being equal in value of the animal killed, or fasting equivalent to the guilt. Its measure has been given in 589, that is fasting for 3 days or the feeding of 10 indigent people, so that he may taste the penalty of his violating the confines. This is ordained as from now, because Allah forgives what you have been doing in the past, but whosoever repeats the offense, will be punished. Because a law which can be violated without fear of punishment, it becomes a sermon. As such, the divine system, while prescribing the punishment for lawbreaking, also possesses the strength for its enforcement. Lawful to you is the pursuit of water game and its use for food, for your benefit and those who travel. This is applicable to water game, as well as to water animals thrown ashore or those left on the dry land after the water recedes. But forbidden is the pursuit of land game as long as you are in the sacred precincts or in the pilgrim's garb. Thus you guard the divine laws, which is the purpose of your getting together in this center from all sides. 4. Eating the meat of such permitted animals on whom Allah's name has been invoked is allowed, but the meat of animals on whom Allah's name is not invoked is forbidden. Thus it is said, 6:118.
فكلوا مما ذكر اسم الله عليه إن كنتم بآياته مؤمنين.
So eat of meats on which Allah's name has been pronounced, if you believe in the divine laws. After this it is said, 6:119.
وما لكم ألا تأكلوا مما ذكر اسم الله عليه وقد فصل لكم ما حرم عليكم إلا ما اضطررتم إليه.
Why should you not eat of meats of the animals that are lawful for you on which Allah's name has been pronounced, when he has explained to you in detail what is forbidden, and of those two which are allowed to be taken under compulsion of necessity? This is followed by 6:121.
ولا تأكلوا مما لم يذكر اسم الله عليه وإنه لفسق.
Eat not of meats on which Allah's name has not been pronounced. This is, no doubt, digression from the path ordained by Allah. It is clear from the above commandments that 1. Even from the lawful animals only those are allowed to be eaten on which Allah's name has been pronounced. 2. Those on which the name of other than Allah is pronounced, are prohibited, likewise those on which no name is pronounced. 5. When Allah has defined lawful animals, the condition of their being, tayyib, has also been added to it. 168.
حلالا طيبا.
Tayyib means things which are agreeable to your taste, sight and smell, or those which are good from a nutritional point of view. It is not necessary that a man must eat every lawful thing. Eating of lawful things is not prohibited, yet from amongst the lawful things eat only what you like, you are not forced to eat what you dislike. The things which you dislike do not become unlawful if disagreeable to your taste. 6. As nobody has the right to declare lawful what has been declared unlawful, similarly none has the right to declare unlawful that which has been legitimate. The Holy Quran has clarified this point at several places. Thus it is said in Surah Al-Ma'idah, 5th chapter of the Quran, 587-88.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تحرموا طيبات ما أحل الله لكم ولا تعتدوا إن الله لا يحب المعتدين وكلوا مما رزقكم الله حلالا طيبا واتقوا الله الذي أنتم به مؤمنون.
Make not unlawful the pleasant things which Allah has made legitimate for you and commit no excesses in violating the limits imposed on you. Exuberance as well as diminution, both are equally harmful. The right way is that you remain within the limits laid down by the Quran and benefit from the good things of life, and as such whatever Allah has provided for you as means of sustenance, eat it in a lawful and agreeable manner and thus obey the laws of Allah in whom you have professed Iman. It is said in Surah Yunus, 10th chapter of the Quran, 1059.
قل أرأيتم ما أنزل الله لكم من رزق فجعلتم منه حراما وحلالا قل أله أذن لكم أم على الله تفترون.
Say, see what Allah has sent down for you of sustenance, then you make a part of it unlawful and a part lawful. Say, has Allah commanded you, or do you forge a lie against Allah? In Surah An-Nahl, 6th chapter of the Quran, it is said, 16:1-16.
ولا تقولوا لما تصف ألسنتكم الكذب هذا حلال وهذا حرام لتفتروا على الله الكذب إن الذين يفترون على الله الكذب لا يفلحون.
And say not any fake things that your tongues may put forth and start declaring at random this is lawful and this is forbidden, so as to ascribe false things to Allah. For they who ascribe false things to Allah will never prosper. In Surah Al-Araf it has been forcefully proclaimed, 732.
قل من حرم زينة الله التي أخرج لعباده والطيبات من الرزق.
Say, who dares forbidding the adornments, gifts, of life which Allah has produced for His devotees, and the things, clean and pleasant, which He has provided, for sustenance. Those who do so, make themselves partners unto Allah, nobody can be given this authority. Say, whatever was intended to be unlawful, Allah has explicitly explained in His book, other than those, everything is legitimate and nobody has the right to forbid any of them. As explained earlier, if anything out of the lawful foods is not agreeable to somebody's taste, he may not take it, but that does not mean that it has become unlawful for him. For example, if Islamic government orders a restraint on the consumption of certain articles of food in response to exigencies of a time, they do not become unlawful. That shall be called a temporary restraint. But those who are great in ranks, their difficulties are also great. The Rasul was ordained not to put even a temporary restraint upon himself. When on a certain occasion he had done so, he was told, 66:1-2.
يا أيها النبي لما تحرم ما أحل الله لك تبتغي مرضات أزواجك والله غفور رحيم قد فرض الله لكم تحلة أيمانكم والله مولاكم وهو العليم الحكيم.
O Nabi, why did you hold to be forbidden that which Allah has made lawful to you, just for the sake of pleasing your consorts? This is an admonition to you, so that no diminution takes place in the means of sustenance and protection for you, and also because the effects of your deeds do not remain confined to your person, inasmuch as if you leave a certain article of food on account of your dislike, your followers may think that it is a bad thing in reality. That is why you should be careful. If you have sworn not to take a particular thing, there is no harm, because Allah has allowed dissolution of such oaths against atonement. 225, 589. Allah is your protector. He has provided such facilities in His laws so that one could easily get absolved of the consequences of his slips or omissions. He knows the weaknesses of human nature and as such has based His laws on wisdom. It was so ordained because the Rasul had forbidden a certain thing upon himself for personal reasons, but there was a possibility of his followers accepting that thing as unlawful. Thus, as a precautionary measure, the Rasul was prevented from such acts. Such a thing had already happened when Jacob the messenger of Allah had forbidden something for himself and the Israelites made it unlawful for themselves. It is apparent from the foregoing that the issue of lawful and unlawful is of such a great importance that, leaving aside the question of holding unlawful a thing declared as lawful by Allah, even to create such circumstances under which it may be taken as unlawful, is not allowed. It was not allowed even to the Rasul himself. To declare a certain thing as unlawful means a restraint on human freedom. It is obvious that according to the basic teachings of the Quran, none except Allah holds this right. The state of extreme helplessness. A state of hunger wherein a person fears death on account of the non-availability of permitted, lawful, items of food. To clarify one particular point at this juncture is extremely important. After giving a list of the forbidden, unlawful, articles of food, it has been said in the Holy Quran that one can partake anything out of them proportionate to one's need, and under the state of extreme helplessness. This means that if circumstances are such that a person is approaching death on account of hunger and a lawful article of food is not available, then in order to save his life, an unlawful thing can be partaken proportionate to his need. This is the only exception the Quran has allowed to take an unlawful article of food. The Quran does not recognize such a state of helplessness in any other aspect of life. But if one adopts a principle that any unlawful thing can be held lawful according to need or any forbidden act can be regarded as legitimate under certain needs, the differentiation between lawful and unlawful or between forbidden and permitted comes to an end. In this respect, two clear examples are before us. Sayyid Allama G.A has said that according to Islam, honesty and truthfulness is one of the important doctrines of Islam and falsehood, lying, is the worst evil, but in practical life there are certain needs under which not only that lying is allowed but it has even been decreed obligatory, decreed by the religious hierarchy. Tarjman al-Quran, May 1985 issue. We are not aware as to who are such authorities that have issued this decree, fatwa, but we know for sure that Allah has never allowed the telling of lies. If we admit that lying is obligatory under certain conditions, then neither falsehood nor crime shall remain an evil, because nobody tells lies unless it is necessary for him. When one accuses somebody of telling a lie, he immediately replies, "Why should I tell a lie?" Not only for telling lies does every criminal offer necessity as the reason for his committing a crime. The necessity may be material or emotional. Thus to hold every unlawful thing as lawful under the pretext of permission to partake of forbidden items of food, is an open rebellion against the Quran. After this, all limits laid down by Allah become unnecessary. When the late Miss Fatima Jinnah stood for election as a candidate for the presidency of Pakistan during the reign of late Muhammad Ayub Khan, the Jamaat-e-Islami decided to support her. But sometimes before this occasion Mr. Maududi had given a decision that Islam does not allow a woman to take part in politics. Thus the question arose as to how far it was permissible from the Islamic point of view to get Miss Fatima Jinnah elected as president of the country and how far it was right for Jamaat-e-Islami to support it. The following was its reply. After prolonged deliberations, the Jamaat has reached the conclusion that amongst the things declared unlawful by the Islamic law, there are certain things the unlawfulness of which is eternal and final, that is which cannot be changed under any circumstances, but the unlawfulness of certain other things is such as under conditions of acute necessity it can be changed into permission to the extent of the need. Thus it is clear that the matter of unlawfulness of making a woman the head of a state, is not one of those which are final and eternal, but it can be counted as belonging to the other category. Pamphlet published by Jamaat-e-Islami. This distinction of huramat, the forbidden acts, some of them being final and eternal and some being alterable under conditions of utmost necessity, is totally against the Quran. No such distinction has been made anywhere in the Quran. According to the Holy Quran, each type of unlawfulness is final and eternal. The allowance of eating unlawful things under conditions of extreme helplessness, to save one's life, does not mean that the forbidden category gets changed into lawfulness, even if they remain unlawful. This allowance is only for a person who is under extreme condition of stress, and this allowance is made by Allah Himself. An Islamic government can also put a temporary restraint on the use of admissible things, considering them unsuitable or harmful under certain circumstances, for example, prohibiting the use of certain fruits during the rainy season or during outbreak of epidemics, but it has no right to declare as lawful a thing that has been ordained unlawful by Allah. We thought it necessary to elaborate on this issue because on the basis of decisions made by Mr. Maududi, the concept of lawful and unlawful is undergoing a change amongst the common men, and by such interpretations the people who dislike divine restraints get an open license for remissions. Intoxicants, psychoactive substances. Intoxicants are not included in the category of food, and as such they are not included in the list of unlawful things. Their use, however, has been very strongly condemned because the addiction to the drugs cannot be eradicated in a day or so. The proclamations in this regard were gradual. At the beginning it was said, 443,
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون.
O you who believe, approach not prayers with a mind befogged, in a state of intoxication, until you can understand all what you say. One ought to be vigilant and attentive during prayers. After this it was said, 219.
سألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما.
They ask thee, O Rasul, concerning intoxicants, psychoactive substances, and gambling. Say in them is a great sin and some profit for man, but their sin far outweighs their gains. And in the end it is said, 590-91.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون؟
O you who believe, intoxicants and gambling, easy money, dedication to stones, and divination by arrows are an abomination of Satan. It causes disintegration of society and the human qualities of intellect, and the vision gets afflicted, suppressed. 10-100. Thus eschew such abominations so that you may prosper. If in order to satisfy your baser passions, you get habituated to intoxicants and gambling, these things, in addition to your personal debility, shall create mutual enmity and rancor, and shall put in obstacles in your subservience to divine laws and in the establishment of the system of Salat. Will you not then refrain from these things after such a clear warning? After this last proclamation by the Holy Quran, intoxicants became prohibited. From this stage-by-stage methodology of proclamations, a principle is deducted that the enforcement of laws shall be carried out according to the existing circumstances of the society, and this also includes the prevailing mental and psychological condition of the individuals. D. The word khamr, psychoactive substance, includes all those psychoactive substances that put a person in an altered state of mind, which put a lid on the human intellect. Commonly it is used for wine, but other intoxicants may also be included in it. In the code of laws prescribed for the state, the word intoxicants shall have to be clearly defined so as to give it a legal form. Chapter 11. Injunctions for social living. Social injunctions are not generally included in the category of laws. But if any social evil becomes rampant in society, an Islamic government can make them statutory. Some social injunctions are described as under. Their details can be found in my book Islami Muasharat, Islamic Way of Living. 1. Moderation in expenses. I eat and drink but waste not by excess. 731.
وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا.
2. Do not spend without reason, need. Those who do so are the brethren of Satan. 1726-27.
ولا تبذر تبذيرا إن المبذرين كانوا إخوان الشياطين وكان الشيطان. 2.
Get up. Use of things that produce beauty and elegance is lawful. None can proclaim them as unlawful. Details have already been given under the heading lawful and unlawful. 732. B. Apparels provide cover for body as well as elegance for a person. 726.
يا بني آدم قد أنزلنا عليكم لباسا يواري سوآتكم وريشا. 3.
Physical and mental capabilities. Knowledge, mental capability, and physical strength are both necessary. When Talut was made commander of Israelites, they had objected to it for his not being a wealthy person and asked what are his qualifications for which he has been made a commander. The reply was as follows, 247.
قال إن الله اصطفاه عليكم وزاده بسطة في العلم والجسم.
Allah has chosen him above you and has gifted him abundantly with knowledge and bodily prowess. That is why he is chosen as your commander. 4. Conversation. Always converse in clear, straightforward and decisive language, which contains no ambiguity. 3370.
وقولوا قولا سديدا.
B. Use language, which is recognized by society and commonly used. 4-5.
وقولوا لهم قولا معروفا.
Speak to them in words that are commonly recognized and used. Also adopt an elegant manner for speech. 283.
وقولوا للناس حسنا.
And speak to men in a charming way. C. 2230.
واجتنبوا قول الزور.
And shun the words that are deceitful and showy. D. 6153.
وإذا قلتم فاعدلوا ولو كان ذا قرب.
When you say something, say with justice and equity, even if it goes against your relatives. E. Do not shout, a shrieking voice is disliked by others. 3119.
واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات لصوت الحمير.
Speak softly, for the harshest of sounds, without doubt, is the braying of any ass. 5. Absurd and immodest talk. Avoid all absurdities. One of the qualities of the believers has been stated as 23:3.
والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون.
They avoid vain talk. The word lag means vain as well as meaningless. In Surah Al-An'am, 6th chapter of the Quran, it is said, 6151.
ولا تقربوا الفواحش.
This includes all sorts of immodesties, even in immodest talk, as it arouses lewd passions. 6. Walking. I. Do not walk in haughtiness, be moderate, 31:18-19, also, 17:37.
واقصد في مشيك.
Do not be haughty while walking, adopt moderation in your gait. 2. When you go out, do not allow your gaze to become bold and daring. This has been ordained both for men as well as women. For men, 24:30.
قل للمؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم.
And for women, 24:31.
وقل للمؤمنات يغضضن من أبصارهن. 7.
Thoughtfulness to ponder and to comprehend. I. Do not follow a thing without an inquiry into it. 17:36.
ولا تقف ما ليس لك به علم إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا.
Remember, pursue not that of which you have no knowledge, which you have not inquired personally. Personal inquiry means that you gain knowledge of it through your senses of hearing and sight, and on this basis, decide by your own intellect. If any link of this manner is broken, your inquiry shall remain incomplete. Look how great is your responsibility in this matter, because Allah has given you will and the faculty of choice, you are not an inanimate machine. For the use of this faculty, He has provided you means of investigation. One who does not make use of them, shirks his own responsibility. This is an important injunction which, if acted upon properly, turns all conspiracies and the intrigues into a complete failure, and a peaceful atmosphere prevails in society. 2. Always ponder over things, see, hear, comprehend, and then make decisions intellectually. For those who do not do so, it is said, 7179.
ولقد ذرأنا لجهنم كثيرا من الجن والإنس لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها ولهم أعين لا يبصرون بها ولهم آذان لا يسمعون بها أولئك كالأنعام بل هم أضل أولئك هم الغافلون.
Many are, amongst the people, both civilized and uncivilized, whom we have made for hell. They have mind wherewith they understand not, eyes wherewith they see not, and ears wherewith they hear not. They are like cattle, nay more astray, because cattle, at least, follow their natural instincts. These people are heedless of warning. 3. When you hear a good thing, act upon it, and when you hear an absurd one, keep yourself away from it. 285.
سمعنا وأطعنا.
We hear and we obey, has been called the believer's way. And also, 28:55.
وإذا سمعوا اللغو أعرضوا عنه.
And when they hear vain talk, they turn away therefrom. 8. Spying. Do not spy on other people's affairs that concern you not. 49:12.
ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا. 9.
Knowledge. I, a learned person and an illiterate one cannot be at par. 39:9.
قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون؟
Say, are those who know and those who do not know equal to each other? 2. Never think that you have reached the final stage of knowledge and nobody knows more than yourself. Remember, 1276.
وفوق كل ذي علم عليم.
And above everyone endowed with knowledge is another endowed with more knowledge. Nor say that my cup of knowledge is full and I do not want to know any more. Such mentality has been attributed to the non-believers. 288.
وقالوا قلوبنا غلف.
They say our hearts do not need any outside information, nor is there room in them for anything more to enter. Not to speak of others, in this respect even the Nabi was asked to keep praying. 21:14.
وقل رب زدني علما.
O my sustainer, advance me in knowledge. 10. Social relations. When you meet each other, offer good wishes and blessings for safety. Thus it is said, 486.
وإذا حييتم بتحية فحيوا بأحسن منها أو ردوها.
One who conveys to you a message of safety and security, and also when a courteous greeting is offered to you, meet it with a greeting still more courteous, or, at least, of equal courtesy. When you enter your own house or the house of somebody else, compliment the inmates. 2461.
فإذا دخلتم بيوتا فسلموا على أنفسكم تحية من عند الله مباركة طيبة.
As has been said earlier, 2427, enter not houses other than your own until you have sought permission, and then greet the inmates and wish them a life of blessing, purity, and pleasure from the grace of the Almighty Allah. 11. Good behavior. Extend kind and good behavior to your parents, kinsfolk, orphans, neighbors, friends, travelers, and those serving under you. 436.
وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم.
The words in this verse do not mean slave men and women only, but also include those serving under you. 2. Do not expect a return for your good behavior, not even thanks. Tell them, 76:9.
لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا.
No reward do we desire from you, nor thanks. Because it has been prescribed by the divine law, and thus the question of thankfulness does not arise. 12. Cooperation, mutual assistance. Cooperate with one another in good and virtuous matters consistent with the divine laws, and do not cooperate in evil and bad matters. 5:2.
وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. 13.
Mutual contacts. Do not behave bitterly when you meet each other. 31:18.
ولا تصعر خدك للناس. 14.
Promise, commitments. Always fulfill your promise and commitments. 1734.
وأوفوا بالعهد إن العهد كان مسؤولا.
Fulfill your commitments, remember you will be questioned about them. 15. Visiting other people's homes. Do not go to other people's home without permission. The Holy Quran has given detailed instructions in this respect. 24:27-29.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تدخلوا بيوتا غير بيوتكم حتى تستأنسوا وتسلموا على أهلها ذلكم خير لكم لعلكم تذكرون فإن لم تجدوا فيها أحدا فلا تدخلوها حتى يؤذن لكم وإن قيل لكم ارجعوا فارجعوا هو أزكى لكم والله بما تعملون عليم. ليس عليكم جناح أن تدخلوا بيوتا غير مسكونة فيها متاع لكم والله يعلم ما تبدون وما تكتمون.
O you who believe, enter not houses other than your own until you have sought permission, and when you go in, extend your salutations to the inmates, wishing their safety and security. Observing these social etiquettes is best for you so that your society always manifests the finest. If you find no one in the house, enter not. In any case, never enter until you have sought permission. If you are asked to go back without feeling any displeasure. Keeping up such manners will keep improving your associations. Allah knows all that you do. There is, however, no restraint on you to enter houses not used for living, those which serve some other use for you, and if these are common go-downs, enter not with bad intention. Always keep in mind that Allah has knowledge of what you reveal and what you conceal. 16. Etiquettes of assembly. Observe assembly etiquettes while sitting in and leaving. 58:11.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قيل لكم تفسحوا في المجالس فافسحوا يفسح الله لكم وإذا قيل انشزوا فانشزوا يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات والله بما تعملون خبير.
O you who believe, these hypocrites, when they come to your assemblies, sit close to each other for the sake of whispering together. Thus if you are asked to make room in the assemblies, spread out, do make room, so that the hypocrites shall also have to spread out and you will not have to suspect that they are conspiring against you. This ought to be a routine in the assemblies. Thus Allah shall make way for broad-mindedness amongst you. And when you are told to rise up, do so. These are small matters but their effects are far-reaching, and if you obey these injunctions, Allah will raise those of you to suitable ranks and degrees, who believe in such things wholeheartedly and are acquainted with the wisdom and purpose hidden in it. Remember Allah's law of requital is well acquainted with what you do. B. When you are invited for a meal, do not go there before time and do not indulge in unnecessary talk, such things may cause inconvenience to the host. 33:53.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تدخلوا بيوت النبي إلا أن يؤذن لكم إلى طعام غير ناظرين إناه ولكن إذا دعيتم فادخلوا فإذا طعمتم فانتشروا ولا مستأنسين لحديث إن ذلكم كان يؤذي النبي فيستحيي منكم والله لا يستحيي من الحق.
O you who believe, do not go to the house of the Nabi until he invites you to a meal, and then, not so early as to wait for its preparation, and when you have taken your meal, disperse without seeking familiar talk. Such behavior causes annoyance to the Nabi. He will feel shy in asking you to depart, but Allah is not hesitant to tell you the right course. Just imagine the society in which the Quran was revealed to the Nabi. Its level of civilization was so low that they had to be taught etiquettes even in small matters of everyday occurrence. But after a few years training by the Nabi, they were in a position of bringing about improvement not only in the Roman and Persian civilizations but also taught ways of living to European nations. 17. Jealousy. Do not be jealous of others. This attitude has been condemned, when it was said, 454.
أم يحسدون الناس على ما آتاهم الله من فضله.
They feel jealous of what Allah has bestowed on others out of His bounties. 18. Backbiting, slandering. 49:12. Do not slander each other.
ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا. 19.
Nicknaming others. Do not call others by nicknames, nor stigmatize them. 49:11.
ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان.
Do not defame each other, nor be sarcastic to each other, nor call each other by offensive nicknames. When after having professed Iman, belief, in Allah, you are determined to become the bearers of graceful manners, then why nickname each other? 20. Envy. 454.
أم يحسدون الناس على ما آتاهم الله من فضله.
Do not envy mankind for what Allah has given them of His bounty. 21. Jesting. Do not laugh at others. 49:11.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكون خيرا منهن.
O you who believe, let not one party among you laugh at others, maybe they are better than those of your lot, nor let some women laugh at others, it may be that the latter are better than the former. Neither men nor women should do it. 22. Public exposure of others. Unless you have been subjected to an excess, do not publicly expose others. For 148.
لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم.
Allah loveth not that evil should be made public, except when injustice has been done to somebody. 23. Mistrust. Avoid suspicion and mistrust. 49:12.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم.
O you who believe, avoid suspicion as far as possible, because some suspicion becomes sin. When differences arise between you, some evil mongers taking advantage of it, begin to create suspicion among you. Be careful about it. Always have a favorable opinion about others and avoid suspicion. Some suspicions reach the degree of crime and sin. 24. Ridiculing of divine system. Deen, the divine system, is a very important as well as sensitive matter. Those who do not take it seriously forsake their company. For 140.
وقد نزل عليكم في الكتاب أن إذا سمعتم آيات الله يكفر بها ويستهزأ بها فلا تقعدوا معهم حتى يخوضوا في حديث غيره إنكم إذا مثلهم.
Friendly relations with the non-believers aside, Allah has ordained in the book that when you hear the signs of Allah, verses of the Quran, held in defiance and ridicule, you are not to sit in their company, unless they stop doing this and turn to a different subject. If you join them in such a congregation you would become the like of them, although there is nothing common between them and you. Forsake the company of such people. 670.
وذر الذين اتخذوا دينهم لعبا ولهوا.
Leave such people alone who, not to speak of the divine system, do not give any importance to the divine code of their own life which they have adopted and consider it as mere play and amusement. 25. Crooked reasoning. Do not indulge in absurd reasoning. Present your case with clear arguments, reasons, wisdom, and exhortation. 16:125.
ادع إلى أسابيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن.
Invite people to the way of your sustainer with wisdom and exhortation, talk to them in an elegant manner, keeping before yourselves the aims and objects of the divine laws and of the moral values. 26. Anger, rage. Do not get into fits of extreme anger. 3:133.
والكاظمين الغيظ.
To control oneself when enraged has been described by the Holy Quran as a virtue of the believers. 27. Forgiveness. If anybody acts wrongfully in ignorance but regrets afterwards, if you think that if forgiven he shall mend himself, forgive him. Allah is most forgiving and merciful. 654.
أنه من عمل منكم سوءا بجهالة ثم تاب من بعده وأصلح فأنه غفور رحيم. 28.
Self-correction, mending one's ways. You should try correcting others, but give preference to your own correction. The Jews were admonished. 2:44.
أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم.
Do you enjoin right conduct on others and forget to practice it yourselves? B. Your own correction includes correction of your own families as well. 66:6.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا.
O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from the fire of hell. 29. Do not bully people with your virtues. Do not try to impress and bully people on account of self-proclaimed virtues. Do not ascribe purity to yourselves. 53:32.
فلا تزكوا أنفسكم هو أعلم بمن يتق.
Do not keep calling yourself virtuous. He only knows best who it is who guards against evil. Incompatibility of words and thought, something in the mind and another thing on the tongue, is the worst habit. The state of hypocrites is described as follows. 3:167.
يقولون بأفواههم ما ليس في قلوبهم.
They say with their mouths what is not in their hearts.